What is going on, everybody? It's Luke and Clay here with you for Play Like a Jet live this Wednesday evening, brought to you by U Stadium. Clay, another week is in the books. The New York Jets struggled against Denver. It was a tough watch, shut out again. It seems like every year the Jets are getting shut out in one of their first few games. How are you feeling?
Not great. if I'm going to be honest, it's tough to watch. I mean, we look forward to the season. We kept saying the word that kept on being brought up was excitement, some kind of form of excite, and it's all gone down the drain. How's it going, TJ? I hope you're doing better than us and better than that frog. But no, it's just disappointing. I mean, we had not even high expectations. That's the thing. Like we were just kind of like, just compete this year. Don't get blown out. Don't have terrible losses. And in 3 games, you have obviously a 5-point loss to Carolina isn't a blowout, but like they were in that game. Like that score was closer than it should have been. The Panthers had opportunities to score, and they didn't. The Broncos even had more opportunities to score, and they didn't. So yeah, 3 games, 3 blowouts. And it hasn't been fun. And we'll get into why it hasn't. But it's just been disappointing so far.
It definitely has been. The biggest disappointment, obviously, has been the offense so far. I don't think anyone could have predicted how bad this team has been. If you look at them on paper, I still think the Jets have enough talent to be, a mediocre offense. They don't need to be a top 10, top 15 offense. This shouldn't be the worst offense in the league. So, Clay, if there was a blame pie and it was broken up between Mike LaFleur, Zach Wilson, the O-line, and the wide receivers, how are you breaking up and sharing around the blame right now?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's tough. I mean, I don't want to sound like I'm coddling, but I feel like Zach Wilson I feel like he deserves the least amount of blame, even though he hasn't played well. I want to put that out there. He has not played well. But the offensive line has been horrendous for the most part. They've had a few good series, and they played decent against New England, especially in the run game. They played really well in the run game against New England, but for the most part, in pass protection, they've been a bust. The receivers and Corey Davis himself, he has 5-6 drops, more than he had all of last year. Elijah Moore had 2 drops in the first game, more than he had in his last year at Ole Miss.
Yep.
Ty Johnson has had costly drops. Michael Carter, I know these are running backs, but they're still dropping the ball, and they're very few targets. The tight ends are non-existent in this offense. So like the receivers have been terrible. LaFleur has been a pretty big disappointment. I mean, but like there's some parts of it where like I watch a play, I'm like, there's no way that could have been schemed up by an NFL coach. And I feel like it's the players that are just not executing what LaFleur wanted. Like, and I'm sure you've seen it. The third down, I believe it was a third down where they had Croft, Davis, and I forget who the last one was. They were all within like 10 yards of each other, and they all ran quick ins. Like, there's no way that LaFleur thought that was a good offense. And I was bringing this up to my dad too. If he thought that was a good play call, that's just obviously terrible by LaFleur. But if he didn't, that means 1 or 2 receivers did not know their routes. Okay, that has to be fixed. But along with that, if they didn't know their routes, why I don't know what word I could say, so I'm just going to stop right there. Why isn't Denzel Mims in? Because your concern with him is that he doesn't know the plays and he's not familiar with the routes and all that stuff. But if these other guys aren't familiar with it either, why not put the more skilled player out there? It's just like there's a lot of things you have to work out there, and like unfortunately, we're not going to know who was wrong in that play. Like and there's so many other plays you can call out where it's like, all right, who was in fault? Was it Zach Wilson making a bad throw? Was it receiver not doing the right route? Was it the scheme that wasn't called correctly? Like I don't know, but it's just like everyone deserves a part of the blame. Every single person. No one has zero blame. Even Joe Douglas deserves blame. Robert Saleh deserves blame. Everyone who has a part in that offense deserves blame.
Yeah, I agree. I'm going to tell you why I think Mike LaFleur deserves the most blame. I was just talking to a few people on Twitter and having this discussion. I have an issue with Mike LaFleur, the teacher, right now. I think if there are players that aren't running the correct routes, that's on him. This isn't on the players not knowing. NFL players are smart enough to grasp concepts. I'm starting to question him, the teacher. You see, look, in my opinion on that play we're talking about, Tyler Croft was supposed to run a speed out or something like that. He was supposed to chip and kind of run a pick play for Braxton Berrios, who was running that second delayed slant over the middle. That's how I think it should have been run. But there's been too many instances like that. The offensive line can't block a bear front right now. The Carolina Panthers walked their Will and their Sam linebackers to the line of scrimmage.
Mhm.
They were showing 5, and the Jets had an unmarked sack to Brian Burns. We saw that against New England too. At what point are all these busts the fact that 9 players don't know their positions, or is it that the coach isn't implementing his system properly? And then on top of that, I don't think the scheme has been fantastic. There were instances, Clay, on Sunday where Zach Wilson on the field goal drive where we kicked the field goal, but it was a delay of game. Ball was out quickly, 5-yard hitch, speed out. I'm going to throw it to the shallow cross. They were just picking the Broncos apart against cover 2, some man coverage. It looked really good. And then next play comes back, and I sat there. I saw him put 21 on the field, and I thought, you watch. First play of the drive, he's going to show heavy play action and try and take a shot. It's the most predictable thing in the world. What do? They do that. The line makes a disgusting slide, and then it's an unblocked sack of Zach Wilson. So it's been a mess. But I just think at some point the buck has to stop with the guy at the top. Obviously, that's Robert Saleh, but it's hard to look past what his defense is doing right now. They're doing a fairly good job, but the offense is a concern, and I've sat through 2 years of the Adam Gase era.
Yeah, and that was our big thing. It's like, all right, Adam Gase is out of here. It doesn't matter who you bring in. They can call a better offense than Adam Gase. And right now, it just – again, we don't know. I think you kind of hit it. Like, it's him, the teacher, not as much him, the coach, because him, the coach too. The coaching has been bad, but like he's also not teaching the guys what they have to do properly, and that goes to the position coaches as well. That's on them too. This is a really young staff. A lot of these guys are in their positions for the first time, which could have something to do with it. And who knows? Maybe Greg Knapp was a bigger part of this offense than we anticipated.
Yep.
And obviously with his unfortunate passing, he's not around. And Zach Wilson doesn't have that teacher that's been around the game for a long time. Like Greg Knapp, he was with some fantastic quarterbacks. And maybe it's kind of made more of a dent in this offense than we've even thought about. And I didn't even think about it until this very second. So yeah, it's been unfortunate to watch. Granted, we spoke about it very briefly before we hopped on air. We've gone against 3 of the top 10 defenses with Carolina, New England, and Denver. Now we go to a bottom 10 defense with Tennessee, and we got Atlanta and London next week, who also has another bottom 10 defense, if I'm not mistaken. So we should be expecting the offense to take some steps forward, especially if we get back Jameson Crowder, which I don't know if it'll be this week or next week. With Jeff Smith getting injured and having concussion, we most likely won't be seeing him. So I think Denzel Mims will be on the field this week, although Elijah Moore could be off the field. So it's just, I don't know. I think it will be better just because we're going against a worse defense, but I'm not going to be optimistic. I'm not going to hold my breath. I'm just going to be like, all right, I'll wait and see what happens. You guys prove to us that you know how to play football on the offensive side of the ball.
Yeah. So last thing I'll say on the Jets offense, look, I think we have to take a look at the Miami Dolphins in 2019. I said it on Twitter yesterday. They started 0-7, beat the Jets, and then ended up with 5 or 6 wins. But they were a team that looked like going 0-16. And since then, in Brian Flores' first year, they've turned it around and become a respectable team, very close to the playoffs. So fingers crossed we can start to turn it around. I think the thing I will say is, at least under Adam Gase, the Jets were scoring in their scripted drives. The Jets were the master of scoring first possession. Yeah. They haven't scored they scored 1 field goal, I think, in the first half so far this season, which is a concern. Yeah. But Clay, flipping over the defense now, I thought, look, they were steady. I thought Brandon Eccles struggled and got picked on a fair bit. I thought they went after him a lot.
Yeah.
But on the whole, I thought they played pretty well, considering, again, a lot of 3 and outs, a lot of bad field position, and they were just on the field so much.
Yeah, and even starting with Brandon Eccles, I don't think he had like a terrible game.
No.
I think for the most part they were picking on him, but he was keeping everything in front of him. Obviously he had that one defensive pass interference at the goal line, which I still don't think was a pass interference. Just thinking back on it from Sunday, I haven't gotten to it in the all 22 yet, but Yeah, I mean, even him, I think he had a pretty decent game, and Cortland Sutton was kind of held to nothing. I know Tim Patrick, he made a couple big catches, but like that's just, and he's a good receiver that people don't really know about. We didn't talk about him going into the game. If I'm not mistaken, I think he had a really good game against us last year too on Thursday Night Football. Yeah, so I think he played well. I think the linebacker group is just rough. Quincy Williams, I know he had the forced fumble at the goal line when the game was obviously out of hand already, but he's just not good. I know we're supposed to love him and all because he's Quinn's brother, but at what point did we like, all right, like we understand you're like Quinn's brother, but you gotta go. Yeah, you're just not good. Yeah, I think the linebacker group's been rough. The defensive front didn't have the edge group didn't have a great game, it seemed like. This past week. It seemed like it was probably the worst game of the three so far. Quinn obviously probably had his best game with a sack and a half. And obviously I got to bring up my boy, Michael Carter II, the highest PFF grade on the team. He's been great in the slot. I know a lot of people weren't sure if it was going to be him or Guidry. We weren't sure either, even though this is the Michael Carter II podcast. We weren't sure what was going to happen. And ever since was it the first play? Maybe like
first drive, third down.
The first drive. When he got that pass breakup on Paris Marshall, he's been killing it. And I know his completion percentage isn't necessarily great, but he's holding each reception to like 4-5 yards, if that. Excuse me. So no, I mean there's encouraging things about this defense, and this defense is banged up. No Carl Lawson, no Vinny Curry, no Gerard Davis. I don't even want to throw Sherwood in there because Sherwood hasn't been good when he is on the field. But Marcus May is now hurt. LaMarcus Joyner hasn't been on the field. Ashton Davis hasn't been on the field. They're just dealing with a lot of injuries. And I know these aren't like huge names outside of Carl Lawson, but they're still supposed starters, and they're supposed to be better than the guys that are on the field. So it's just, I don't know. It's rough that like it's not a full unit, but I have been encouraged just by a lot of the younger players, especially on the defensive side.
Do we think Marcus May is hurt?
I think he's hurt. I don't think he's hurt for that long though. I think they're kind of just. I think it might be like a little thing where it's like, all right, he probably couldn't play this week, maybe the following week, but we're gonna say, what is it? Did they say 4 to 6 weeks?
3 to 4, I think.
3 to 4. Okay. Yeah. So I mean, I don't know. Do you want to get into that right now?
Look, we may as well. We're here now. Yeah. For those who missed it, his agent Eric Burkhart came out and said that Marcus May will be healthy by the time the trade deadline rolls around, with a little emoji after that. The Jets and he have been at war since the offseason. They wanted a contract extension for this exact reason, the injuries and the age. The Jets didn't want to do that. I was on Joe Douglas's side there. I thought they made a fine decision to franchise tag him. I didn't think they needed to extend him. And now it looks like they're just playing for a trade in the offseason. So what's your take on all of it and what his agent has come out and said?
I think the second he's healthy, you trade him.
Yeah.
I like Marcus. He's been a good player. He's a Gator. The one good Gator this team has drafted. But no, I think it's just time. I think it's just time to move on. He wants to get paid. The Jets aren't going to pay a safety the money that he wants. Especially a safety that's his age and has been as injured as he has. Even though he's been pretty healthy the last couple of years, it's just not you're not in the best interest of the team, of the organization, to spend that kind of money on a safety where you can spend it on, I don't know, another offensive weapon, another offensive lineman, which they will desperately need to spend money on this upcoming offseason. I don't know who's available, but something will have to be done. So I think that money can go is better used elsewhere. So yeah, I think the second he's healthy, you look for a trade. It's probably not going to be much. Heck, even if you want to trade for like OJ Howard, Marcus May for OJ Howard straight up. I'm going to keep on bringing up that name. But yeah, I think in all seriousness, I think you look for a trade the second he's healthy. Just Yeah, get something out of it, and he's happy to, and I think he deserves that as well.
Yeah, I agree. Two guys the Jets shouldn't be trading are Quinn Williams and Sheldon Rankins. I thought both of them were really dynamic from the interior. Splash put it on the screen before. Quinn Williams had 3 pressures, a couple of sacks. He also had 2 run stops for less than 2 yards. Obviously, run stops aren't the best measure, but when they're close to the line of scrimmage, they're a big play. So Quinnen is starting to get back to where he was. Rankins just completely ran over the left guard at one stage. Looked pretty good early in the game when the Jets were still a chance, but these guys just got worn down because they're on the field so much. The Jets in the top 15 right now for total points, total defense, all those kind of things allowed. So they're doing a good job. It has to be said they haven't faced particularly great offenses themselves. Carolina, New England, and Denver are all kind of middle of the pack offenses. But do you think the Jets have a chance, and I'm going to phrase it like that, have a chance to win the game this week against Tennessee, who are so banged up as well? There's a chance there's no A.J. Brown, there's no Julio Jones possibly. Obviously, they still have Derrick Henry and Ryan Tannehill. Do the Jets have like a 5% chance of winning this game of football?
Yes. Yeah, when you put it that way, yes. I will say at least a 5% chance. But with that being said, like it sucks because even a week ago, I would have said, yes, with A.J. Brown and Julio Jones out, the Jets absolutely have a chance. Like, I don't know if I can say that. I don't know if I give them more than like a 30% chance, which I think which is being nice too, with saying 30. They've just been so putrid on offense. The Titans are a much better offense than anything they've gone against so far. Granted, they're missing 2 guys, but Derrick Henry, he can carry, like we've seen that he can carry an offense. Even if you're planning for him, he can still carry that offense. So, yeah, and that's I guess if that even answered your question.
Yeah, look, to answer TJ's question on the screen here, I think the Jets just have to do everything they can to stop Derrick Henry. They have to have 5-man fronts. They have to stack the box. They need to make Ryan Tannehill beat the Jets without either 1 or 2 of his best receivers. Look, I don't think A.J. Brown's going to play. Hamstrings are very difficult. So even if he is on the field, I think he's going to struggle. So
seems like
you got to make Ryan Tannehill beat you.
Yeah, and make him beat you with who else is even on that team?
No, we went through this in the offseason. Who are the receivers?
I feel like they brought in someone. I don't know. Here, I'll try to fill some time while I'm looking this up. But
but I mean, look, the Jets have a chance to win. It's not a very good chance. What I want to see is let's score 2 touchdowns. Let's see if the New York Jets can score 2 touchdowns for the second time this year. We were talking before the show with Splash, our producer, about just how bad the Jets offense has been through the first 3 games and where that ranks historically. And look, it isn't as bad as you may think. The Jets have scored 19 points through their first 3 games. Is that right? 20?
Yeah.
Do they
14 and 6.
14 and 6, 20. Sorry, my math is terrible. They scored 20 points. It wasn't in the bottom 10, but it was somewhere in that 20 to 25 range of worst 3-game stretches to start a season ever. This is an opportunity for them, Clay. You've got Tennessee's hapless defense, and then you go to England, and then you see Atlanta's defense. Can we at least see some offensive production? Because, look, I don't want to hear anymore that the Jets have a young offense. Look, I get they have a rookie quarterback. Corey Davis is a vet. 4 of the 5 offensive linemen who are having the most trouble out of everyone are vets. You've got McGovern, 5th year. Greg Van Roten, 5th, 6th year. You've got George Fant and Morgan Moses who are vets. Like, there's no excuses. The Jets should be better than this.
Yeah, I mean, on paper, you would think, all right, like they're not a great offense, but you think maybe like at best, I think the 20th in the league. But probably more so in like that 25 range. And it's just easily 32nd right now. It's just been that bad. Actually, yeah, I want to get into what Ryan just mentioned on the screen too. But it's just we have to stop with the excuses. And we know someone very well in our group chat that is tired of the excuses. Maybe we're not to that point. But yeah, it's just there's nothing anyone that Robert Saleh or Mike LaFleur can say that can justify scoring 20 points in 3 games and are on pace for, I think, 11 and a half touchdowns on the season.
Yeah.
I think that's the math I did.
It's insane. Look, let's get on to Mark Sanchez. He went on Speak for Yourself. If you like yourself, I would recommend not watching the show and just looking for clips online. That would be my best suggestion. Steer away from ESPN. But he went on and talked about how really 2008 changed the way rookie quarterbacks were thought of. You had Joe Flacco come onto the scene. Then obviously you had the next year, Matt Stafford and Mark Sanchez come and make the playoffs in their first years. And after the CBA changed the contract structure, then you had to play these cheap assets because it was such a competitive advantage. And how we've moved away from Jay Feely had his say in the comments and said, oh, well, Aaron Rodgers sat, Mahomes sat, and who else did he say? There was one more he said sat.
Eli? Was it?
No, it was someone else. He said they're the best three quarterbacks possibly in NFL history. And look, number one, where's the causation and correlation there? I don't want to get into that. Jay Feely is
He's terrible.
Feely. Yeah. But look, I understand what Mark Sanchez is saying, but Zach Wilson was ready to play coming out of college. Zach Wilson wasn't Josh Allen, where he just looked inaccurate and all over the place. He wasn't, who's another example of someone, Justin Fields, who, look, I know people got on me in the draft process. He wasn't ready to play mentally because of Ohio State. It was not Justin Fields' fault. But what they asked him to do there was detrimental to being an NFL quarterback in day one. And that's not on Justin Fields. That's on the coaching staff and Day and those guys. But it's an interesting discussion. Do you think the Jets were right to start Zach Wilson?
I mean, to start him, yeah. They had no choice. And when it's between Zach Wilson and Mike White, like, one, who do you think gives you the better chance to win? And two, like, why, like, Mike White does nothing for you. Like, you're also like this for the Jets in particular. You're like, you need the best chance to win.
Yeah.
You need the best chance to win because like that's wins. Like that means everything in this league and in every sport. And Mike White just wasn't going to do that. I know Nick I don't know if he's serious or not, but he's mentioned Josh Johnson starting for this team over Zach Wilson for a short period of time. And like, with all due respect, Nick, if you're actually thinking that, I 1,000% disagree with you. At this point, you just got to let him get through the struggles. Like, because like, you don't want to lose. You don't want to lose the whole locker room either. That's what that does. Like putting Josh Johnson in, like it's a fun story. He's been on 14 teams in the league.
Yeah.
But that's all it is. He's not a guy that should be starting when you just took Zach Wilson second overall.
Can we also say that Zach Wilson actually looked fine for Denver in the first half when he was actually given opportunities and receivers were catching the ball and he was getting the ball out quickly. Zach Wilson looked fine. I'm not saying he looked great. Oh, wow, Zach Wilson was amazing. Go Zach Wilson. Zach Wilson didn't look bad against Denver in the first half. Zach Wilson missed a speed out to Elijah Moore, had like 3 or 4 drop passes. The O-line was terrible. He was fine. Against Carolina, he was completely fine once the game settled down and the O-line started blocking. I just don't think Zach Wilson has been as bad as people are saying anyway.
Yeah, I mean, I do think that he has looked less poised than he did week 1. I think it is starting to get to him a little bit, whether it's true or not, and that we'll see how it happens against Tennessee and Atlanta, see if he feels any better. But it's just, I don't know. He should be playing. There's no way he should be sitting unless you trade for. I don't even know a name that I can put out there. Even if they had Nick Foles.
Yeah.
If they had Nick Foles, I think that's an argument. But even then, it's just like you need to do what's best for the locker room and put the best product out there. I mean, we even saw what Nick Foles did last year with Chicago. He was trash.
Yes,
he was complete trash. And he won a Super Bowl. He was a Super Bowl MVP just 3-4 years ago. But that is in the past. I mean, you can go back to Peyton Manning. He had one of his best year, probably the best year of his career in 2013. And then 2015, he sucked, and they somehow still won the Super Bowl.
Correct.
So, I mean, I don't know. I feel like I'm just rambling here. Save me.
I'm with you, though. Like, if the Jets brought in Gardner Minshew in a trade in the offseason, maybe that makes sense. You think there's a vet backup, but he's still young enough where, he offers something to the football team if you think Zach Wilson needs time. But I want people to remember Sam Darnold's rookie season. He started okay, and then he really went downhill against Minnesota and some games around there. He got hurt, and then he came back, and look at that stretch down the back end when he went against Houston and Green Bay and those kind of teams. I think Buffalo was one of the last few games. He put it together. He started to look better. The Jets are going to have that opportunity. They're going to see Miami and Jacksonville and Houston and the Bengals all coming up in the next 10 weeks. I think we need to be patient. We're going to put this together. And as frustrated as I am with Mike LaFleur and the offensive line and Zach Wilson missing some throws and starting to drift back, it's important to realize that this is going to get better. And even though we see it with such a short view, look, it's 3 games into the tenure of Robert Saleh. Things should improve.
Yeah, I mean, you'd think it would get a lot better than not even 7 points a game through 3 games. Yeah, so I think it will start getting better this week. Then again, I put a tweet out there on Sunday morning saying, like, I don't know why, but I have a feeling this offense is going to put up some points. Not like a ton of points, but I'm just like, I feel like they're going to get something going early on. And obviously, I was far off. Honestly, Freezing Cold Take should have retweeted me, quote tweeted me, everything, just because that was such a bad take. But no, this week I think it will get a little better because we are going against an inferior defensive opponent, and I think even with their top 2 guys being out, yes, Derrick Henry, they're going to run the ball with Derrick Henry, and they're going to kind of run out some clock. I think our defense won't be on the field as much as they were in the first 3 games.
Yeah, the good thing for Jets, they have the run support corners, Bryce Hall and Michael Carter II, both very good in the run game. You've seen them active through the first few weeks. So if the Jets can find a way to stunt Derrick Henry and only give him 150 yards instead of 200, then look, legitimately, this should be, and I say should be, a 1-possession game coming into the fourth quarter. Will it be? Probably not. The Jets will probably be down 2 to 3 scores, and we'll all be yelling at our Twitter and throwing things at the television. But they have an opportunity to at least be competitive. We'll see how Robert Saleh rallies the troops, because I think this is a test for him. You've got some disgruntled players. You've got Mekhi Becton fighting with fans online. You've got the offensive coordinator calling out Mims and calling out Becton. And you've got Greg Van Roten, who inadvertently kind of threw Zach Wilson under the bus. You've got Connor McGovern, who in someone's DMs threw Elijah Vera Tucker under the bus. This is a mess right now. A lot of it on offense, but this is not an ideal situation for a rookie head coach.
Yeah, no, he needs to get this under control. I mean, that was a big thing about Robert Saleh. He wasn't a defensive coordinator. He was a leader of men. And right now, it just seems like it's kind of all over the place. And I know it's early on, and I know these players and especially these fans are frustrated with how things are going, especially after the last 2 years. But he's got to get this under control. And I know winning cures everything, and it's much easier said than done to get a win in this league.
Yeah.
I think we both know that. We definitely both know that watching the Jets. But things are going to get better. Things are going to get better. I don't think it can't get much worse. Definitely can't get worse than last week. But no, it starts with Saleh. And someone actually said it in the chat. Sir Robin. The blame, plenty of blame to go around, but it starts with Saleh, and he needs to get this team under control and get these stupid ticky-tack things out of the way.
Let's talk about Robert Saleh for a moment, because I think he's definitely looked agitated when speaking to the media the last couple of weeks. I think the questions about Denzel Mims have agitated him, just how poorly the Jets have played. He seemed a little flat and not quite himself. And then in conjunction with that, I had a discussion with Scott from Play Like a Jet. If you aren't listening to the Play Like a Jet podcast, make sure you're doing it. It's the best in the business. Every single day he releases a podcast. And we were talking about penalties. What's your take on this, Clay? People say that if your team gives away a lot of penalties, it's on the head coach. It's an ill-disciplined football team, and that comes back to the head coach. At what point can you blame Todd Bowles or Adam Gase for Henry Anderson being a moron? Like, at what point is that line between, Shaq Lawson gave away a roughing the passer. Number one, it wasn't roughing the passer. Number two, look, I understand you can drill these things into your players till the cows come home, but at what point is it really coaching when you get that on the field? Like, where is that line, do you think?
I don't know. It's so hard to tell. I mean, obviously I've never been a coach. But these guys, and they're not kids, they're grown men. I mean, it's their decision to be a complete idiot on the field and have a taunting penalty or an unnecessary roughness penalty or whatever it may be. It is on them at the end of the day. I know the head coach does get blamed, but I don't. how much blame they deserve for those stupid penalties, I don't know. I mean, all right, so going to that drive where we were going to kick the field goal, obviously Zach Wilson makes an incredible throw to Corey Davis. Davis drops it, aka gets swatted out of his hands.
Yeah.
And then we're going to kick a 53-yard field goal. Amendola makes it, but there's a delay of game. Now, I know we hate on Jay Feely because he's not a good commentator, but he was saying that it was on Morstead. Morstead he's the one that has to be paying attention to the play clock, and he's the one that, if you're not ready by the time that play clock is about to hit zero, you call the timeout. And I kind of get that because, like, as the head coach, you don't want to call timeout and ice your kicker if it doesn't need to be iced.
Especially on a 55-yard field goal or whatever it was. You really want to burn a timeout there.
Exactly. So, my thinking was like, all right, I don't really think that's on Salah, but then I see other people like, oh, Salah's going to call a timeout. He's going to call a timeout. Now you're punting. And obviously the punting was obvious that was going to happen because it was like 4th and long at that point. But that's a stupid penalty. That shouldn't be happening. But is that on Salah because he didn't call a timeout? Is it on Salah because he didn't have his players ready? Is it on Brant Boyer because his players weren't ready because that's his unit? Or was it on Morstead because he's the one that has to be watching that play clock and call hike and make sure everyone's set. All 11 guys are set. So, again, where's the line? I don't know.
Yeah, it's a fascinating discussion, though, because you're right. It's so difficult to share that blame and understand who's really at fault. Whether you've been in an NFL locker room or not, I don't think it really makes the picture much clearer, but it was definitely an example of one of those interesting moments where the Jets made a mistake and someone has to be held accountable, but it's just deciding who needs to be held accountable. So, Clay, let's kind of finish off looking forward to Tennessee again. We've already kind of mentioned the matchup. Give me some things you're hoping for, predicting, whether it's a receiver who's going to go off, whether it's Zach Wilson actually throwing for a pair of touchdowns. What do you think? What are you expecting and what are you hoping for, I guess, are the two questions.
What I'm hoping for points.
Oof, tough ask.
So if they can score 2 or more points, I'll be happy.
Safety.
Yeah. But no, I mean, I want to see multiple touchdowns. I want to see a 20-point game. I don't care if you're hurt. I don't care if this is not a good offense. You have to score in this league. You have to. Yeah. And you're really not that bad of an offense.
No.
You're really not that bad. It can be done. You guys scored 20 plus points last year against some teams, against worse, better defenses.
Correct.
So I know it can be done. So yes, I want to see 20 plus points. I know last week I said would be the biggest scoring output with 16. Obviously, even though 16 is not a high bar, they weren't even close to it. They were 16 points off. So I do think they crack 17 points this week. The Jets over under is 19.5. Oh man,
that's a tough one, hey?
That is, because I feel like I've been optimistic so far. I appreciate you, Sal. You're one of our better listeners. Yeah, there it is. Yes, I'll drive up from Florida, and Luke will fly out from Australia just to make sure that we're at Florham Park.
If we're without Elijah Moore and Jeff Smith and Denzel Mims still doesn't see the field, and Crowder as well, probably, oh man, I'm going to be unbearable.
And at that point, we would only have 4 receivers. We'd have 4 healthy receivers. And if it's Berrios, Davis, and Cole the entire game and Mims doesn't even see the field, or if he doesn't even see the field for 10 plus plays, I think that'd be a massive disappointment. But that's, I feel like I'm getting off track.
Yeah.
So over under 19.5. I'm going to say they go, I think they score 20. As bad as the offense has been, I mean, it can't be that bad all season long. Like, it just can't be. I know it can't be. It's literally impossible. We've never, outside of the 2000 Bengals that Splash was just telling us about earlier tonight, it is literally impossible to continue to be this bad. And against a pretty not so great defense, I think they can turn it around. And when I say turn it around, I don't think 20 points is really turning it around, but it's something to keep moving forward. And that will lead you into London against another bad defense. And that's when you can kind of just start opening up. And then you have a bye week to really sit back and figure out, all right, what worked, what didn't work heading into, was it New England week 7? Yeah.
7. Yeah. I think it's week 7. Yeah.
Okay.
Correct.
Yeah. So yeah, I think they scored over 19.5 by a half a point.
Yeah. All right. We'll see. So you think what's that? 2 field goals, 2 touchdowns? You don't think we're going to have a missed point after or something?
I think they're going to have 6 field goals and a safety.
Look, I want to laugh, but I think I might cry because you actually might be right. But we'll see what the Jets can do offensively. I think this is an opportunity for Corey Davis to bounce back. You mentioned the drops. It's something I didn't really mention before the season because he didn't drop a lot of balls last year. But if you just go and watch Corey Davis's highlight tapes, he second grabs a lot of footballs last year. He had a touchdown against, I want to say, Cleveland in the end zone last year where he double clutched it. And there was quite a few of those. I don't think he's got the best hands, but he definitely can't have 5 drops over 3 weeks. So this needs to be Corey Davis bounce back week. Can't have what we've seen from him. He has no one going against him. I can't list a Tennessee corner right now outside of Fairley, obviously. So, look, I don't know what they're even running there. I haven't really watched Tennessee yet. I'll do that in the next couple of days, but he needs to be better. Zach Wilson needs to be better in his pocket presence. I think you kind of referenced it, Clay. He's definitely been drifting in the pocket, and there's been an opportunity for him to step up and throw, but he's been leaking his front foot out and throwing kind of with his shoulders down to the line of scrimmage. So he needs to be better in that regard. And, look, I think the Jets are underprepared. They need to be better prepared. Look, I'll stick to my guns. The Jets do not look like a prepared football team right now. You can blame execution all you want. The Jets aren't prepared. We'll see.
And they didn't look prepared. And I was saying in our chat last week, like on offense, it looked like Michael Carter was the only one that was trying. And I know his stat line wasn't good. And people are like, oh, he's not good because he averaged 2 yards a carry. I don't know what it was ultimately. I don't even know if I looked at the box score because I was just too afraid to. But yeah, it seemed like he was the only one trying on the offense. Like he's fighting for every yard, and there's only so much a running back can do when they're down 26 points, and down multiple scores at halftime every week. So, a lot of things. I think Corey Davis, he needs to play better. I think Ty Johnson needs to get off the field on third downs. He's such a massive liability.
Thank you. Look, I know Michael Carter dropped 1 ball and it was tipped, bad luck, but he is a much better third down back. You're right.
Even pass protection, and he's not great either. But Ty Johnson's worse. And then I don't want to bash on Ty Johnson because I actually don't mind him as a runner.
Yeah, me either.
As a runner, I think he's actually okay. But on third downs, it's just he doesn't help you in any way, shape, or form. You might. I know he was inactive, but Michael P. Ryan, I don't think he's a bad third down option because he can block. He's a good blocker at running back, and he's not a bad receiver. And obviously, with Tevin Coleman not playing, they activated Josh Adams, which was kind of surprising.
Agree.
And he didn't even see the field. But I don't know. I think something has to change there. They can't have third downs. Critical third downs called for a pass to Ty Johnson. LaFleur has to, he has to change something there. There's so many things on offense that have to change, and you'd think that an NFL coach paid to do this would know that he can't be doing that stuff.
Correct.
Ty Johnson's never been a receiving back, and why is it going to him? Why? Not, even Berrios, I know he had that terrible. I don't even want to call it a terrible drop because it wasn't accurate, but he had both hands on it and it was dropped. But Berrios, Jeff Smith, even Elijah Moore. You have these receivers, and you're going to throw it to Ty Johnson. Yeah, I don't know. I can go down a rabbit hole with that one. That one infuriated me. And a lot of things have to change if they're going to score 20 points, like I just predicted. I know Sir Robin, he says 24-0. Sal, he says 21-14 Jets. Sal, I hope you're right. If they can win by a touchdown, I will be extremely, extremely happy. And if they win by a touchdown, Sal, I'll give you back that $4.99.
Yeah, agreed. Let's look. If the Jets win look, maybe I'll just put some money on the Jets every single week. Just $5. I'll make a fortune the one time that they actually win, because I'll be paying $30 by the end of the season by the time they actually get a win on the board. But look, we'll see how the Jets can respond against the Tennessee Titans this week. I think if you made me guess right now, I think the Titans win this like, I don't want to say the same score as last week, 24-14. I'll say something in that range. I think the Jets will have a couple of touchdowns. I think things will look marginally better. We'll go, well, maybe there's some hope there. Zach Wilson will have some flash throws, but I fear it's going to look a little bit like Sam Darnold's rookie season, where it's a little too late and those plays are kind of coming late in the second half. Give us your kind of last prediction, Clay.
I think the Titans will win. I'm gonna go 28-20. I think it'll be a relatively close game. Like you said, I think it'll be a one possession game going into the fourth quarter. And the Titans will ultimately, they'll just keep running out the clock with King Henry, and I think that'll be our downfall. But yeah, I think the Titans will win 28-20, and mark this down, the Jets will get their first interception of the season.
Who's getting it? This is exciting. Don't you know?
I want to say something crazy like Foley Fatukasi.
It would not surprise me. We joked about Michael Carter having a strip sack on a fumble, and that's how they're going to get the turnover last week. Well, it was a Quincy Williams fumble recovery or fumble force. So that would kind of sum up the Jets season. It's been pretty wacky so far. So Clay thinks the Jets are going to lose by, I think, 8 points. I think you said we're going to have the Jets getting a wacky interception to someone on the defensive line. They will take the ball away for the first time via an interception this season. We'll see what happens. Guys, I want to say a big thank you to everyone for tuning in. I know it's a difficult time for Jets fans. It's easy to come here and vent. Make sure you check it out with us every Wednesday night, Play Like a Jet Live. U Stadium has a ton of great content. Make sure you're checking out the work of all the team, whether it be Splash, our producer, his work on the sports desk, and a number of other shows. You've got Nick and Frankie on Timeout. There's great content across the board. Follow them, like them, all those kind of things. For us here with Play Like a Jet, make sure you're sending your super stickers like we saw, and your super chats like Sal did earlier. So a big thank you to him. He's here every single week. So that's what it looks like. Your comment will be in green on the screen. It's a huge bonus for U Stadium and for Play Like a Jet. So a big thank you for doing that. Make sure you're over on our YouTube channel as well. We're pushing 1,300 subs now. So starting to really get the ball rolling. We've got 4 or 5 videos a week. So that's what you can do for us. What we're going to do, Clay and I will be here for you every Wednesday night to listen to our moaning and complaining about the New York Jets. We'll help you get through it. Thank you guys. Good luck sitting through the game against the Tennessee Titans on Sunday. Hopefully a better showing from the Jets. It's Luke and Clay from Play Like a Jet Live. Appreciate you, and we'll see you next week.